Thank you.
Okay. Next
Sorry,
on the
wrong
agenda.
button again.
Yeah, next on the agenda, we're going to discuss membership growth of business chambers. And John, thank you for taking this, be the facilitator of this session. I just would like to introduce you to the group. As the founder and CEO of Pan-African Private Equity Company, John has built a reputation as an in-the-trenches businessman with an enviable ability to bounce back from extremely difficult situations. In addition to his own business interests, John has been involved in the launch, growth, and exit phase of over 50 companies. He's raised capital for businesses and projects across the African continent and had direct involvement in over $3 million of trade whilst being internationally recognized for multiple awards in the financial services sector. John's mission is to help African businesses and its people to unleash their full potential through maximizing creativity and providing them with the tools to bounce back when needed. I think that's just the right man for the job, because John is also the chairman of the Cullinan Chamber of Business. John, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It always feels a bit awkward when somebody introduces you, but thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm gonna just the screen share. I did send a copy to Leandra if I don't get this right. Is my share screening at all?
No.
All right, that's why. There we go. Screen share.
Keenan is oh, there we go.
Ah.
Yeah, there we are. We can see it, John.
Just a little bit slow this side. Right. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's really a nice honor and a privilege to be asked to talk about this topic. And I want to put a caveat, if I could put that word, into place when we start. I'm not an incredibly academic person. I'm more of a street fighter, as my bio said and Linda alluded to. So I'd like to go back to basics and get to the ground. So so I hope this is what you had in mind, and this is stuff that we implemented in our chamber, and examples that I'm going to use that has helped us to, through the COVID phase, grow our book and grow our membership quite successfully, I think. So thank you for the opportunity. The first thing I'm going to say is if you say to a chamber chairman in the current economic environment, with so many businesses closing, especially in a town like Cullinan, where we are heavily dependent on tourism and small operators in that industry, if you say to a guy, you need to grow your chamber, they normally have a facial expression like this. And this is actually a picture of me when I saw my bank statement last Friday. However, I would like to put it to you that it is actually a bit of a different environment than what we believe. It's actually the best time to be alive for a business chamber. And I'm sure that your facial expression would be something similar to that, right? That's not me, obviously. So why do I say that? So let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. As you may have picked up in my bio, I'm pretty much, I believe in jockeys as a private equity investor and all of that. I believe in the people that work in the business. And you get people that can survive, and you get people that thrive in the same scenario, and people that sadly cannot pull through. So the emotional state of people is I believe, very important for us if we try to change an economic environment. And if we look at a recent survey amongst business owners of companies with turnovers between 10 and 25 million per annum, predominantly owner managed, found that three main emotions came through this entire survey. Entrepreneurs feel alone, unsupported. They feel fearful and uncertain about tomorrow, and they feel confused. Right? They don't know what their future holds. For the first time, they are natural born rebels and leaders and people that like to be in the forefront, but they don't really understand. They don't have that same emotional confidence that they used to have less than a year, or just a little bit more than a year ago. Let's unpack why these emotions exist with entrepreneurs. Let's start with unloaded and unsupported. Most people can agree, will agree with this statement, that there was very little to no government support during the lockdown and through the pandemic that's hitting us today. I think it was alluded to by our first speaker as well, that there was very little support. There's a perceived lack of understanding of creditors and banks. Yes, some of us got a 4-day or 4-month payment holiday, but many of us never got any advantages, never had access to these things. And then the last point is the perceived high cost of proper professional advice out there in the market, right? You can't ask anybody anything without spending a lot of money. And with that is linked in, how do I know that I'm actually getting the right advice? On the statement of fearful and uncertain, my apologies, I'm just shutting this phone off. You'll find that we currently live in an environment that is driven by politicians and media that are headline driven and headline gluttons, right? We find a rise in conspiracies that is quite significant. Everything from the Freemasons taking over the world to the Illuminati. I mean, Bill Gates was a software developer till a year ago. Now suddenly he's an immunization expert. Not speaking to the validity of these conspiracy theories, but it starts to hit us as people. We're starting to doubt what the next step would be, right? And what the right thing to do is, as father, mother, entrepreneur, business leader, everybody. We have very little to no control over our immediate future. There's rumors of a third wave, right? There might be another lockdown. I spoke to a client of mine that owns a restaurant chain that said to me, John, another lockdown, it's not about funds anymore. I just don't want to go on with business anymore. It is just emotionally too much, right? We see irrational legislative changes. Stuff like what type of T-shirt to wear, right? Walk on the left side, not on the right. I mean, we have had some good comedy uttered by our politicians. And then we see decision-making by businesses, business leaders, politicians, local government, all of that, that's driven by immediate panic and not long-term thinking. Why aren't entrepreneurs feeling, or business owners feeling confused? Suddenly, I've been in business for years, there's new business terms. Everybody's talking about digitalization, the new normal. If you're not online, you're dead. I've always been a plumber, for example. I do my job well, and suddenly I hear these terms that says to me, in 2 years, I'm out of business, right? You suddenly see a massive rise of social media gurus. Now, just in preparing this document, I did a quick research on business coaches, which is a big pet peeve of mine, by the way, in Pretoria or Tshwane. And 3 guys that are very active on the social media. I just did a bit of research behind them. One is a failed insurance broker that has never really achieved massive successes there. The second, that a 30-year career at a retail, like a supermarket, as their HR manager. And the third was a lady, that actually sounds like she's got a very small business, but a bit of business experience. Now, I'm not doubting the intent of these people. I'm not saying they're fraudulent people, but how can you advise, especially emotionally, a businessman going through an incredibly tough time, a guy that's used to having cash flow, to having making decisions on and it working, and he starts to doubt himself. How can that support be there? How can that person actually add value? And there's a fear of the market. And the fun thing is, you already see it in the social media marketing campaign. If you look at COVID, every second person with the internet connection was busy selling you some sort of internet marketing or marketing solution or something. And the prices were cheap. I mean, one of the clients at one of our subsidiaries quoted, we quoted them 18,000 Rand for the work. This guy was quoting £1,000. So you saw the sudden influx, and you now see that they're starting to move out. But these sudden influxes, in a world that you don't understand, causes fear and panic and confusion. We also, and I touched on that slightly now, is new competitors. 2 million people have lost their jobs, in excess of 2 million people. That's in the formal economy. Think how many people informally as well, right? And informally, I'm not just talking about traditional mind goes to spaza shops, but think of that plumber that comes to your house, comes to that electrician that helps you, the guy that does your electric fence. How many of them are actual formal businesses in the sense of it? How many of them are sole proprietors and just guys going on? Right? But there's a rise in micro businesses. Let's say 10% of that 2 million people decided, instead of sitting at home and crying, let's try to do something. And I commend that. But suddenly I've been operating my business for the last 15 years, especially in the low entry barrier businesses. For the last 15 years with 3 or 4 competitors that I know well. Now suddenly there's 30 people coming into the industry. They're pricing differently, and you have to address it. Right? The second point that I'd like to bring across is what I heard from a lot of guys that I've spoken to is this: they're fighting against anonymous websites. How do you fight a website? It's not something that we as business people pre-COVID were involved in. It wasn't something that we thought of, right? Yes, it was something that's on the way. We can't doubt it. It would have come anyway. COVID just brought it a little bit quicker. So why do I share these 3 emotional points to you? Why did I highlight it? Because that emotional state has caused the following economic impacts in our lives, than which we operate right now. Currently, we have the lowest business confidence index score since 1984, according to Saki. Now, for the more matured part, we have people today that can remember the 1980s. I had a conversation with one of my colleagues who was involved in business chambers in the 80s. It was a rough economic time then. Interest rates were 20%. It was actually quite a difficult business time. Now we're sitting with lower business confidence than that. We already had we heard this morning from our speaker, 2.2 million job losses. It is estimated that another 1 million job losses is up for 2021. And I can see it on our side in the business, where I have a mandate now to retrench companies, about 200 jobs in total, with 3 companies that have been pulling through the whole time. That the effect of the economic collapse and the lockdown is still coming through the system. Right? It's estimated that 125,000 companies will not survive this year. Right? An interesting point is that they expect more corporate action, which is liquidations, acquisitions, and sales of businesses, to happen in 2021 than in the last 10 years combined in South Africa. We saw a drop in car sales and in rental property yields, especially in the higher market. If you look at your more eloquent estates and bigger houses, they're becoming more and more affordable, right? Because people can't afford them. I spoke at a college yesterday. 3 of the students spoke of they've moved since COVID to now into smaller properties, right? 7 out of 10 of our main industries that we index on has actually contracted, excluding finance, mining, and personal services. Now, as alluded to in our by our first speaker, personal services and finance are not great job creators. So those are not going to create, especially in the short term, the need to create jobs aggressively. It has to be in manufacturing, in agriculture, tourism. Luckily, mining is doing pretty well. The scary fact is we're starting to see increased reports of financial and commercial crimes, right? As people get more desperate, they fall for cons more easily. And a sad reality is lack of money brings out the evil in every one of us, right? So why did I say that mouthful? Because I firmly believe we are currently in an all hands on deck situation, right? If we want to miss the iceberg, in our personal economic Titanic story, we have to jump on deck now. And who's positioned to support business owners in the best way it is out there? Business chambers. Only active business chambers can address the needs of entrepreneurs in emotional distress. Right. So how can you actually make all this what sounds like bad news and negative comment? How can I take my chamber and see it as an opportunity? The first step I would say is to change your strategy from providing business services, but to actually speak to the business owners. Speak to the entrepreneurs, speak to the drivers, speak to their emotional state. Address loneliness by providing access to coaches, mentors, and mentors again. I see there. Mentors is clearly very important. Be an available business friend. Provide regular and reliable communication, social media, newsletters, personal emails, telephone contacts. A silly thing that we started at our chamber is every Friday I come have a cup of coffee with the president of the chamber scenario. Every Friday we are speaking to 8, 9. I just looked at my diary. Our 5 meetings set up for tomorrow, and these are people that they don't have specific intellectual debates that they want to have. They just want to chat to somebody that understands business and understands the environment that they're in, and get some general business advice. How do we address the fear? By providing accurate, trusted news and comments about the immediate future. All right. You'll say we'll talk. I mentioned it later in the slide, but some reserved, calm comments, right? As much as what we all want to criticize our President Ramaphosa, the one thing that he has been able to achieve is to instill a sense of calmness in a situation that should actually medically be in total. We all should be in total panic, right? We have to be visible in lobbying on issues, and we have to also be visible in running feel-good projects. A very silly example, I took my personal bakkie and we drove into Cullinan, and that was before the DA and Randall took over Tshwane, and the previous ward councillors and everybody absconded, the whole municipality absconded. And it was really a massive issue just to have the amount of rubbish on the road. It was 2 days that my guys picked up some rubbish with the board of the DCC, and quite visible that it is the DCC. It created a feel-good, and it created a positive emotion. You need to provide accredited, real advice. People are scared of all the social media gurus, all the advices that sometimes come out, the books that are suddenly that's appearing out of the norm. People want advice from people that they can trust, and it's the chamber's duty to build relationship with the local experts and with people that the members in the community cannot necessarily access and have those conversations with them. How are we going to address confusion? We're going to provide guidance and communication in plain language, right? One of the pet peeves that we have is all us more corporate people like to write in very high English and use big words like prudent cognizance and all those type of things. We need to communicate back in plain language, people. We need to tell people it's okay, right? We have to be a source of credible, reliable and relevant information applicable to our communities and applicable to our members. Not about what's happening in Cape Town just as a feel-good story. I spoke to an entrepreneur the other day, coincidentally, when the psychiatrist phoned me to said if I can just have a chat to him, and only later I heard he was actually suicidal. One of the things that caused this massive emotional tolerance in him was actually a good news article. It was about this businessman that was just properly poised, and he is macking it out of COVID. His business was in the right place at the right time. He's obviously a good businessman. And he started having emotions of inferiority. Why am I so stupid? Why can't I do this? Why can't I turn it around? That's why I say people need credible, relevant, reliable, local news and local information. Your chamber is to be seen as a big brother, right? You need to demystify trends, speak to conspiracy and with calm and reserve. And you need to be seen as the fighter for your local business with your local municipality, with other businesses, with taxi associations that may cause problems. You have to be visible. You have to have a cause, right? Now, all of that said, like I said, I'm a pretty simple guy. I like on the ground, simple, straightforward things. And all of that is now beautiful, but how do you implement this in your chamber? And I don't have the illusion that any of the chamber here is sitting with 10 million rands restructuring capital and a comfortable revenue stream. A lot of us have seen our income streams virtually disappear, sponsors actually close business, and it is tough out there. So this is stuff that I've used in the past in the chamber, built up 1,500 members within 24 months, and we're slowly implementing it into ours. I can tell you can launch or do all of this for less than $2,000 a month, right? So 7 simple steps. That way, you know, I'm going to be short and sweet, and not, at least if I'm painful, you can know how many slides to go before you have to put the my mute back off, right? First, start a telecanvas campaign. People are lonely. They want to hear your voice. Ask the question, are you okay? Ask, listen, update your information. Make sure the company still exists. Make sure that that you have the right contact information. Ask what they're feeling. This creates opportunities for you, which we'll handle a little bit later. Start a petition or a survey, right? I've seen, and I saw this now in local politics as a spectator, the ward councillors, the politicians that consistently drive petitions and causes are the guys that are being followed. It's the same case in business chambers. Obtain data, needs, wants, and services required. If you are making 10, 15 calls, right, every day, and you see out of that 10, 5 guys needs an accountant, for example. Now you as a chamber are empowered to phone your accountant, member accountant, and say, yeah, come, let's have a short business breakfast. Come talk to these guys, or let's meet at my boardroom, or phone these guys, right? Which will create additional services and sponsorships that you can sell. It creates positive emotion, right? Build an active social media platform, right? People consume more information and more news on Twitter and Facebook than what they do on FinWeek and any other platform out there. That's the sad reality. But why do they actually go to your page? Share community news. Tell your member stories. Don't just post about all the good things that you do. Just post, don't post beautiful pictures of your children. Yes, from now and again, maybe you've got a pretty kid and people like looking at it. but people want to know what you're doing for their businesses, and they want to know what other businesses are experiencing. Share member visits and engagements. Show activity in your chamber. Show that they're available. I'm very proud of Ariska, our chamber administrator. Every person that walks into that chamber, she takes a picture and she loads it on our social media. It creates a vibe. It creates an environment that the chamber is not an exclusive club on the top there where we smoke cigars and send out tenders. Right? Express emotions and opinions. Provide opinions, but and this is a risk, I know. You are going to, excuse my friend, like I said, I'm not born with a lot of polish, right? You're gonna piss people off, but you're gonna have to do it. You have to show that you have an apologetic approach towards business, and you're gonna have to show your community that your opinion is aligned with theirs. Introduce new members on your social media. It adds value to them. They share, they send it out, and show active petitioning and lobbying on your social media. Right. Number 3, create an online home for members. Many of us, due to budget or whatever the reason is, have a very beautiful electronic brochure, right? The time has moved past. People can't drive around and go pick up books. People are fearful to travel. People are cash flow time. Your website has to be a resource. And I'm not saying do it in one day. Start building it over time. Share community news, tell member stories on your website. Same as on your social media. Same with opinions. However, I had there specialist articles, right? You have an accountant. You have a lawyer. Yesterday, with the Poppy Act, we've got some requests. I phoned a lawyer that's a member of our chamber. We have a beautiful 2-page article about everything about the Poppy Act relevant to small business, right? That's a nice resource to put on my website. It's a nice thing to put on our newsletter, and it didn't cost me money. Introduce new members on your website. Have a member list. I know some of these things sound silly, but make sure that you are actually doing it, right? And show active petitioning. The last point, make members feel that the site is their own and has value. Add resources, add access to special products, add online tools. For example, we're launching soon now we call it our Taste Neighbour project, which is arts and crafts made in Cullinan. That'll have a little shop in Cullinan, but it will also have an online store on our DCC website where 30 products can be exposed by any person in there free of charge, and they can actually sell it online. These products are very simple stuff to add value to your members. Right? We have to start working towards consistent and regular in-person member engagements. Like I said, a project that's been very successful for our chamber is have a cup of coffee with a chair, right? Just come sing your heart out. Yes, you have 2 or 3 guys that you have to see every Friday and people that can be a bit of a nuisance, but there's a lot of value being passed, right? Business coaching days. Have days, because I do it a bit as a passion thing. I've been doing it up to now, but it's now grown bigger than what I can handle in my time, that I can invest. So we're negotiating with business coaches to actually come work with us, to donate a morning or a day, especially to your informal markets and the guys that were outside the industry. Small business soft skills training. There's so much available. Dirk Portas, that I know that's on this group, is a fantastic example. He's got an academy, so the Centurion Academy under Lapis. There's so many soft skills that are available that we now just trained at rolling it out. The micro business leadership training, those type of things. Start providing access to it. Even if it's just small topical debates on media, marketing, those type of things. Meet a business board member and a business celebrity approach. A very big thing is informal get-togethers, lunches, restaurants, bars, breakfast. 10 guys, 5 guys, 8 guys, right? Get these things going. Little women's group, LGBTQ type of community. People with little specific needs, let them get together. Guys that have problems with accountants, link them to an accountant. Start playing that personal, regular gaming within your chamber. And you'll see number 6, what I say here is a Zoom a day keeps the bank manager at bay for your chamber. I try to do a Zoom member every single day, which gives them, I know it's not personal in your face, but it is personal contact. I'm running all right. I'm starting to steal a bit of a time maybe here. Community visibility. This is nice and short and sweet. Info desks at markets and shopping malls. Attend local events. Have a little store there. Have speaking engagements. Know this sounds silly, but when last did your chamber do it? Right? I looked at my own chamber and I realized when last were we with a DCC shirt at a local flea market. We just started a new farmers market in town. I haven't visited it once. I don't know if any of my chambers did there or any of my board members, but it hasn't been advertised that we were there. There's 40 new businesses that's busy, micro businesses advertising themselves that can become members. Branded shirts, support your local clubs and NPOs and sports organizations. Your sports club by default will have a sponsor, or is most likely to have a sponsor, right? That could be a member of yours, right? It can add value to this sports club. A lot of these sports clubs, they're great cricket players, soccer players, rugby players, but they don't have a clue how to administer the NPO or the association. Help that. Let the chamber support that, right? And do member open days at the client, at your premises, all over. This is 5 very nice ways to actually get some visibility. What I call structural visibility. Car magnets on the cars. We have 4 vehicles that's driving around with DCC stickers. I get phone calls virtually 2-3 a week from people that want to join, people that want to get more information. And the irony is, when I stop in anywhere close to Rayton, Cullinan, Refuelware, Bronkhorstspruit, that areas, people approach me and say, yes, you guys are so busy. It's just because they see our vehicles driving around. Printed and framed and membership certificates. The reason I put that in there, people are not putting up membership certificates in their reception anymore. Push that, right? So that it goes up, so that people can see you're front of mind. Social media check-ins, it's such an easy tool. When you walk into one of your member businesses, check in, let them see you were there, and other people see that you're there. A very big opportunity we miss: comments, suggestions, and recommendations on social media groups, right? If I take some of the groups, Centurion, I live in